Motherhood. 1 minute, you're mom of the year.
I love you, Mommy.
Then the next, not so much. From bath time to bullying, from potty training to puberty, parenting is full of challenges. But one thing is for certain, you are not alone. Welcome to Modern Mom Probs. I'm your host, author, mother, parenting expert, Tara Clark. Join me while we tackle today's modern mom problems. And Myriam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited to chat with you too. I've been following you for a long time on Instagram, on Mothercould. And so tell us a little bit about your background there and then how that came into your new book that's coming out.
So it kind of all started with my motherhood moment, which I always lead with because I feel like as parents, we're always searching for that like little bit of joy, right, within parenting. And motherhood started with my motherhood moment when my oldest daughter, I have three girls. I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. When my 10-year-old was a baby, she didn't want to eat anything, but like absolutely nothing. And you're always like, oh, so that's what picky eating is all about, right? When you're a first time parent, you're like, oh, I get it. But this was like non-existent eating. It wasn't like picky eating. So she didn't want to eat at all. And I go to the doctor. I was also a very young mom. I was 23. So I go to the doctor and I'm all concerned, and the doctor looks at me like I'm absolutely crazy because she is on the 90th percentile of height and weight. And we're no giants in this family. We're like pretty short people. So he's looking at me like, girl, you don't know anything. And I'm looking at him like, I don't think you understand. She doesn't eat. So it was one of those moments where I was like, if I don't get this under control, my daughter's never going to eat. That is how I felt. And she did have a sensory sensitivity. Every time I sat her in grass, or we're in South Florida, so every time we would go to the beach, she would curl up her feet and she would just cry. And it was just like it was kind of like that moment of like correlation of between sensory and not being wanting to eat. Again, I was a very young mom. Every time I would put her to eat at the high chair, I would wipe her face if she had a little bit on her mouth. I wanted her to wear her bib really tightly so her clothes didn't get dirty. I didn't know. The doctor was right. I didn't know anything.
But I think so many new moms are like that too. I mean, as you're saying that, I'm nodding because I was like, yes, I was the same way, but keep going.
Yes. So I was like, okay. I'm gonna take this in my own hands, and I'm gonna introduce different textures through play. And if you know a little bit about sensory play, it's all about like Play-Doh or slime or sand and all of these things that are not edible. They're actually pretty toxic ingredients if you look into them. So I decided to start making my own sensory play recipes that are all made with edible ingredients. So my Play-Doh recipe is things like flour, salt, cream of tartar, oil, and boiling water. Easy. So she puts it in her mouth. It's okay. My sand recipe is also a mixture of those ingredients, but in a dry form. And then my slime recipe is the same thing as well. So I incorporated all of these different textures into play, and I saw a huge difference. Within 6 months, my daughter went from eating absolutely nothing to eating quinoa and salmon, which what 1-year-old do you know that eats quinoa and salmon?
Yes. Well, my thing with my son, actually, I find that you say that at 1, he ate everything.
Yes.
It was actually when he became like older than a toddler, when he had some say in it, that he was like, absolutely not. So
yeah. And it happens all the time. And what happens when that happens is that all of a sudden they have a say and they're like, I don't want to eat that. So you stop serving it. And what happens is exposure stops happening. Mm-hmm. So with sensory play, it's all about exposure, right? The first time that she goes to touch a texture, she's going to be like, cringe and walk away. Second time with Peppa Pig and little toys that she loves next to it, she'll be like, oh, maybe it's okay. third time, she'll be a lot more inclined to do it. So when it comes to picky eating, when they're older and they have a say, they're like, I don't want to eat broccoli. And you're like, I don't want to waste food. So you stop serving it. You stop giving them that exposure. And that's where it becomes worse and worse and worse and worse over time. So if you talk to any feeding specialist, they will tell you just continue to put it on the table, continue to put one piece on their plate, just so that they continue to have that exposure. And so through that exposure of sensory play, I got her to eat, and it was my motherhood moment. And since then, I was like, I turned to my husband, I was like, babe, I have to share this with the internet.
I love it. I love that. And then that was it. And then it was born from there.
Yes, it was.
That's
born
amazing.
From there.
When did you get on Instagram? Like when did you start?
So that was 2016. But after 6 months, I turned to my husband. I was like, babe, I'm done. It is so much work to look effortless. Yeah. Like I did not have, well, first of all, 2016 to what it is today is like a whole
night and day.
Night
and day. I also got started on Instagram in 2016. So I completely understand. You're preaching to the choir on that one. It is a totally different beast. Yeah.
Totally different beast. So after 6 months, I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, this is not my calling. I can't do this. I was pregnant with another baby. It was like a lot going on. So I stopped it for like about 2 years. And then I had another baby. And then in 2019, I was still doing all of the sensory play things that I had shared on Instagram with my now second daughter and my first daughter. So I was like, let me return back to social media. But this time I want to, do you remember those tasty videos where it was like overhead shots and it was like quick 1 minute recipes and you're like, I'm going to be a chef. Okay. So that was me, but for play. I was like, you know what? I'm going to show people really quickly how to make Play-Doh, how to make slime, how to make sand, how to make all these things. Overhead shot.
Yep.
You should have seen me in my backyard trying to find, you know what it is like as a content creator. Light is everything. Yeah. So I was like, okay, every day at 11 a.m. in my backyard is the best light. Yes. Okay. Because I had tried and I bought all the lights and it had like terrible shadows. And it was just like, you know what? Backyard, 11 a.m. every day. So I bought the tripod. I had the camera and I was editing on my computer. This is 2019. Still, like the things that we do now on our cell phones, like our kids will never know. Our kids will never know.
They don't know the struggle. They'll never know the struggle.
So that's what I did. I came back in 2019. I came back really strong. And then the pandemic hit. And I had already grown my Instagram community and my Facebook community as well to like about 300,000 followers. And the pandemic kind of like took off after that. And I always say like the pandemic was my lowest point, even though it was everyone's lowest point, but it was my lowest point because it was like all of the families from around the world were looking at me to like find things to entertain their kids. Because if you look at my play recipes and if you look at my activities, it's all things that you can do with items that you already have. So it's nothing that you need to go to Michael's or Target or Walmart or whatever your local store is to buy stuff. It's recycled materials. It's ingredients in your pantry. So Mothercould was the ideal place for everyone stuck at home. Yes. What do we do?
Yes.
Except my husband is now in the house, working from home. He was an investment banker at the time, locked in his office, and I'm home with two little girls trying to survive, right? Trying to survive and trying to do this.
All the things.
All of the things.
Yeah.
So it was one of those moments where it like kind of like took off, but it also kind of like damaged my mental health.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I like post-pandemic so much more than pandemic.
So much better. So much better. Yes, because we can still play and we still need to be creative and playful, but totally in a healthier environment. So I'm with you 1,000%. But I have to say kudos to you because you I'm taking the word probably out of that. You were a resource to so many families that really needed it at that time. Yes. So thank you for that, because how you felt or how millions of moms and parents felt all across the world, all across the country. And they were like, oh, every day is the same. It's Groundhog Day. What could we do to shake this up in our own backyard?
Yes.
On our driveway or wherever they were playing with these games and these sensory kits.
I agree. And in a way, it did keep me, well, obviously, it kept me motivated and it kept my brain thinking of other ways to be creative, which has now fueled the rest of my business. Like that period of time was so short, but felt so long and has been so instrumental for everything else that has come after. And I meet people like when I go to Target or when I go to Walmart or when I go on a trip and they're like, I don't think you understand how helpful you were during the pandemic. And I was like, no, I get it. I was right there with you. Like, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So
you were making content for yourself. Do you know what I mean? If you were your ideal audience, you needed it. And so you were making it. And I think that's where the best content comes from. Even for me, like if I'm making jokes or podcast episodes, whatever it is, it's like, I need this information. So if I need this information, I'm sure everyone else does, or many other people do too.
Yes. And I think it's one of the reasons Mothercould is so well received worldwide. And it's because it's just me. And it's me in my house with my kids. There's no fluff. There's no edits. There's no filters. It's just who we are. And it's who we were then. And it's who we've grown to be today.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that fueled Playful by Design. Playful by Design came from the idea of parents thinking that their home needs to be perfectly organized at all times because social media has shown us that like these perfectly organized spaces exist when in reality, it's like a little corner. Like this shelf that you see here, no one touches. Zero people touch it. It's in my bedroom. All of the things that were put there 3 years ago have stayed there for 3 years.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing a story, I'm just like, hey guys, this is it. People are like, oh my God, your house is so organized. I'm like, hey, would you like me to turn this? Just turn. You know,
just shift it over just a little bit.
Shift it over. So I wanted to create kind of like a guide of one to say, like, put my hand on parents' back and be like, it's okay to have a little bit of chaos from time to time. And two, that we need to let our kids play more. We need to let our kids play more independently so that they're one, are not dependent on screens. Two, want to destroy the house every time they do have access to play. And three, live in a home where you all feel are a part of it rather than there's two people at the top or one person at the top and then everybody else is beneath them. So we did it. We did it with Playful by Design. Yay! Room by room. Word by word, and it's been really cool to see.
It's awesome. The book is gorgeous. The photos are gorgeous. The ideas are gorgeous. It's just laid out really well. So I want to talk a little bit about the book itself, obviously, and what's inside. So you speak about play areas.
Yes.
Right? So let's unpack that a little bit. No pun intended.
So play areas will be different in everybody's home. And I wanted to make that clear from the beginning of the book. It's not like, here's a one size fits all guide. And if you don't do it like this, then it's not going to work because you'll have kids of different ages, different dynamics, different genders. Do you have grandparents living in the house? It's just so many different situations. And I remember when I first started on Instagram, I used to share my playroom rotations. And as my community grew, it was basically just me kind of like shifting items within a room and giving it a whole new life. And I would get bombarded with questions. And it was like, but what if I'm in an apartment? What if I have a 2-year-old? And what if this? What if? And I was like, one day, I'm going to put all your what ifs and I'm going to put it in a book. And that's what we did. Ta-da! And it's interesting because your what if today as a parent will be different than your what if tomorrow as a parent, right? Yeah. Like as your child grows, they're from 1 to 3 years old is a whole different world. Yeah. Anyways, back to the play areas.
Yeah. No, it's true though. Cause I think about, as you were saying that, it made me think of my own life and with my son. When my son was born and up until the age of 3, we lived in a New York City apartment and all of his toys were in our living room or like in the corner of our living room. Yes. And that was his play space. He had some toys in his bedroom, but again, the bedroom wasn't all that big. And we mostly were all spending time in the living room. And so now I think about it because we're in the suburbs and he has a playroom and most of the house now. No, I'm just kidding. There's just toys everywhere. No, but I do try to keep it mostly in the playroom. And it's a big difference for my own mental health to be able to have compartmentalized spaces that are like adult spaces or family spaces versus just stuff where there's like Legos everywhere.
Yes. Kids are human and humans crave connection. So saying like, I moved into this beautiful house and it's got its own playroom, but it's all the way on the other side of the house. And you're like, I'll never see a toy ever again is a lie you are telling yourself.
It's a lie.
Because kids will literally go to the playroom and bring the toy to the living room because they want to be with you. They want to be with you and they want to be with you for such a short period of time. It is so precious that it is fleeting. So I always say, create these play hotspots. For example, when my third daughter was around 1.5 years old, she would wake up really early and I would want to sleep just a little bit more. So I literally created a little shelf in my bedroom with 4 of her toys. And every morning I would take her from her crib after I give her her bottle, and then I would sit her down right in front of her toys and she would play while I slept for a little bit longer.
Yes.
And it was my ultimate play hotspot. That hotspot doesn't exist anymore in my bedroom because she doesn't do that anymore. But creating those hotspots that are particular to you will be amazing. So if you have, for example, a family room attached to the kitchen, maybe that's a really good area where I have, for example, next to the TV or underneath the TV, there's like a console area, but next to it, there's a little like hidden spot. I have some of their toys there because when we're all together, like we do family movie night every Friday, my 3-year-old doesn't want to go play in the playroom, but she also doesn't want to watch the movie. So what do we do with her? We're going to send her to bed.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
No, so we have the last thing she wants.
The last thing she wants to do. So we have her little bit of toys right there. And creating those hotspots that are unique to you are so important. So I always say, and throughout the book, I put a lot of questions. And I'm like, think about your family dynamic. Think about where you are the most. Think about the things that your kids are interested in. So it's kind of like a list of not to-dos, but it's a list to think through. Mm-hmm. And that is really helpful to kind of tailoring your own play hotspots. And ultimately, like I always say this, it's like, I love the home edit. They're my ideal rainbow world.
Yeah. They're like the gold standard of organization.
Like yeah. So they came out with their whole like refrigeration, compartments from the Container Store. I was the first person in line and I went to the Container Store and I bought all of it. All of it. And I was like, my refrigerator is going to look so nice. So beautiful. Okay. And it looked so nice, so organized, and it did exactly what they meant to do. But every time my kids needed the apples, the cherries, the cucumbers, the milk, whatever it was, Mom, can you get me this? Mom, can you get me that? Mom, not even Dad, because Dad had no clue what I did. Okay.
He's like, where's the milk?
Literally, like, where is everything? And that's kind of like the thing that I wanted to pull back the most. It's like, how can I give the people that I live with in this house more independence? And it's, allowing them to be the architects of their space. And that's where allowing kids to be the architects of their play space came into. So allowing them to have an opinion of where things are, what sort of things they have, and when they can play with them is huge. I like we can have professional organizers come into our space and redo their bedroom with like their toys nicely organized, the clothes nicely organized, like everything in its place. Mm-hmm. But if the kids don't know where things are, 1, they're less likely to play with it. 2, more likely to bug you about it. Mm-hmm. And 3, just not be interested. So giving them that independence from the beginning is so crucial. It is like the fundamental part of allowing kids to be more independent and leading to independent play. And you can start that with newborns. You can start that with kids of any age and any age. For example, let's talk about newborns.
Yeah,
because I feel like
when you said that, I was like, wait a second.
Because I feel like newborns is that age where people are like, I don't have a life anymore. That's it. My life is just this, and it'll always be this. And you have a 12-year-old. It's like this, even though it
so
feels like it's forever. So the newborns, put them down. Like, why are we carrying them all the time?
Because they're crying? I don't know.
There's zero reason. Obviously, we love them and we want to carry them and we want to nurture them. And that's all like amazing. But if you feel overwhelmed because you feel like you always have something on you, put them down. Create a space where it's safe for them to be. For example, tummy time. Tummy time is huge. Obviously, newborns, babies, we should always be supervising them. It's not like leave them there and walk away for 3 hours. No,
right.
No. We're always supervising them. Okay?
Arms distance away.
Arms distance. But tummy time is huge, right? And doctors will tell you tummy time. But like, how do we approach tummy time? There's so many like mats we can buy, so many things we could do, so many DIYs. So it's kind of like choose your poison, right? Do you want to buy the expensive mat? Do you want to go with the more mainstream, or do you want to go the DIY route? Hello. And actually do it. Like, put your baby down to try it. The first time, they're going to cry their eyes out. They hate it. They hate it. Don't give up. Don't be like that. You know what, doctor? She cried. That's it. Not doing that.
We'll never do it again.
No. Second time, they're a little more used to it. Third time, they like it. So on and so forth. It's all about that exposure. It's all about kind of like that muscle memory of play. And you can start at any age.
Yeah. No, I love that. One of my favorite memories of when my son was a baby, he was sitting in, we called it the monkey chair. It was sort of like one of those like bouncy chairs. And it had like, the face was a monkey and it had bananas as the grabby toy. And it was the first time that he discovered his hands. And so he was there and he was like, oh, what is this? And then he like reached up for the banana and he was like, what is that? And my husband and I have it on video, and every once in a while we'll like take it out. And we're like, oh my goodness, it's when he discovered he had hands. But that was play.
So
that was probably one of the very first times that he actually engaged in play.
Yeah, I love that. But that's because you gave him the opportunity to do so. And that's really important, to give yourself that acknowledgement, that motherhood moment. Like, I did this. And it's because you gave them the space, you gave them the tools, you gave them the opportunities. I think one of the things that as society, we are a consumer society. We love to buy things, right? It's so easy. It's at our fingertips. We just go buy. My daughter doesn't have the latest doll. Poor baby. Like she's just not thriving, right?
Right.
So we just want to give them so much. I am Latin and my family is a gift givers.
Yes.
I have the grandparents, I have the aunts, I have like my daughter was the first for everybody. So
Same.
That first Hanukkah, I cannot explain to you how many toys came into my house. I had a 2-bedroom apartment and like, it was just.
It's too much. It's too much.
It was too much. But at the time I was like, yes, this is so nice. Like, thank you. This is amazing. She didn't play with any of it. None. 0 toys. 0 of the items that she got, she played with.
I get that.
And I was like,
I feel that.
I don't understand. This is the latest toy, the most flashy.
It's the loudest. Beep, 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 boop, boop, boop.
The most beautiful, the most expensive. Didn't play with anything. So then I was like, okay, let's dial this back. And that's when my playroom rotation started. I only put out 4 toys at a time.
Wow. That's so smart. I want to talk about that. That was something that I know that I should have been better about. But I
But if
mean,
you don't know, you don't know.
yeah, you don't know. That's why we're talking about it now so that people can learn.
That's right. And I learned about it through social media. This was the time where I was at 6 months on social media. They're like, have you tried Playroom Rotation? This like beautiful family from Australia. And I was like, you know what? No, never heard of this before.
No, it's a great idea,
It's a
though.
great idea, and it works. It works, and I call it the Costco method.
Ooh.
Have you heard of the Costco method?
No, tell me.
I love talking about the Costco method. So if you go to a supermarket, you just go for ketchup, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're at the ketchup aisle. Have you seen how many ketchups there are now? There's like 100 ketchups.
Yeah, so many.
Every type of ketchup, spicy ketchup.
All the ketchups.
All the ketchups.
Yes.
If you go to Costco, there's 2 ketchups.
Oh.
2 balloons.
We got balloons. I don't even know what happened there. That's the best. I don't even know what that is. Thanks, Riverside. See, that's playful by design.
There you go. 2 ketchups. And you're more likely to, 1, spend less time making decisions, and 2, buying one of the 2 ketchups.
Yes.
So if we give our kids less options, I'm not saying them buy less things. Buy everything you want to buy them. Do you? You want to buy them 100 toys? Buy them 100 toys. Show them 1/4 of those amount of toys at a time. Put the rest in storage.
That's what I was wondering. Where are you putting it? In a closet or a basement
Wherever
or something?
You can. Wherever you can. Literally all over I have them. I have in organized bins underneath beds, on doorways, on top of closets.
Yeah.
In Playful by Design, I actually have a toy storage glossary, and it goes by toy, and it will tell you like cars, these are 5 options, dolls, here are your storage options, so on and so forth. And I go through every type of play because I know that that's a hard part for parent. One, because there's so many options. It's the same thing as having too many toys.
Yeah.
Kids, like deep bins are my arch nemesis. My arch nemesis, deep bins. Because kids will see a deep bin, pull it out, and pour it out, and walk away.
Yes. I actually did a reel about that a few weeks ago, like literally that same thing, because saying about like sound is triggering because I know that I'm going to have to clean it up.
Yes. And then what happens to the parents is like, I hate when they play because it's so messy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, that's why I say deep bins, arch nemesis. Don't get them. If you have them, throw them away. Like, don't even gift it to another parent. That's just cruel and unusual punishment.
Fair. You know what? My son has so many Hot Wheels, thousands of Hot Wheels in deep bins. And then when actually, they're so heavy that you can't really pick up, but you could kind of like tip it over a little bit.
Yes.
But like, oh my gosh. And then you're there like putting away all the Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels and Legos are our 2 biggest, like, oh my goodness kind of things.
Well, have you thought about putting half of it in storage?
Well, now I can say properly that our playroom is big enough that I could put the bins away and sort of keep things out.
Okay.
But when, when he was younger and we were still in the apartment, stuff was just everywhere. I didn't have that kind of storage space. I did put stuff in bins sometimes and then kind of stack them up, but we didn't have that kind of closet space. We didn't have that kind of square footage. That was hard. It was
very
messy.
hard.
It was a lot of crap just everywhere.
Very hard. And I talk a lot about that in the book. It's like, what if you don't have the space? Like, even if you have the space, you might have family living with you. Your situation might be where you just don't have the space. So it's kind of like thinking outside the box. And it's like finding those storage potential places.
Yeah.
For example, in my playroom, I don't have a lot of built-in storage. I have 1 shelf and the rest are walls. So I did 3 things. 1 is I built a book wall, which means I put books on shelves, nicely organized, and doesn't take up any floor space. Another one was I created a dress up section, and the dresses are on a hook on the wall.
Love that.
So everything is nicely organized. And then in the art section, I did the same thing, but for their art supplies. So I created this like bookshelf situation and an art cart so that way you can move it around the room. One, it provided beautiful decoration on the walls. I didn't have to buy anything else. And two, it gave me those storage solutions that I didn't think I had. So it's thinking outside the box. It's like, what do you need to buy a new bed. And you're like, I don't have a lot of storage. So let me buy a bed where I can have storage underneath the bed. Doors. People never think of doors. There's so many amazing organizers for behind the door. There's one in the playroom right now that I have that basically has a section for stuffed animals. And then the tops are these like zipper pouches that come off and they can play with it on the ground. And when they're done, they can just put them back.
That's amazing.
So cool. So cool. So I really wanted to give parents, households, these like out of the box solutions because we don't all live in mansions. Surprise.
No. Well,
Surprise.
that's the thing too. And then another thing is now my son is 12, right? He's not playing with a lot of the same toys that he used to. He's very sentimental. So he actually doesn't want to get rid of a lot of his things.
Yes.
We have a lot of things, but there are many things that we want to. What do you recommend as children transition and age?
It's very hard. And it's very hard I would say it's harder for adults than it is for kids. I get a lot of parents that say like, if I move their one car from their one spot, they're going to be so pissed. And it's because you're starting the conversation with if I move their one cart, they will be so pissed. And it's having them be the one of the idea. It's making them think that it was their idea all along. So it's them being the architect of their play spaces. And it's, honey, I feel like we're a little overwhelmed. We need to make the space a little bit more creative. Do you have any ideas on ways that we could do that? And then they start thinking of things come to mind. And then you'll be like, you'll go off of one of their ideas. Be like, I have too many Hot Wheels in this one spot. And then you'll be like, you know what? I think that we could put half of those over here. And they'll be like, that was a great idea. So it's involving kids, especially as they get older. I see it with my 10-year-old in her bedroom. She created a little like reading area. And if I were to move one of her very ugly scarves from the wall, she would be very upset at me. Like very upset. And I get it.
Sure,
it's her little corner.
space.
She created it. She's her space. It's her everything. But maybe we go to Target tomorrow and be like, did you see that cool scarf? I think it would be really nice in there. If you know what, man? Yeah. I think it would be so nice in my reading area.
I love that. So make them think it's their idea. I like that. Involve them more.
Involve them.
Yes. I think that's so important because again, that does lead into the independence, the creativity, all of that kind of stuff. I love that. I wanted to speak about the importance of play, analog play in today's society when kids so often are handed a screen or they have access to screens really early. Like how can we encourage our kids to play independently and, like I said, through analog ways?
I think it all starts with a mental shift of our own before our kids can have that part. And I'm a big proponent of screens. I think that screens are a toolbox in our parenting toolbox.
Yep.
Right? We should be able to use screens whenever we feel we need a break, or maybe you want to teach your child a certain thing. Like there's so many incredible ways to use technology. Don't hate me for this, but I feel like we use the excuse of our kids only want to watch TV because we don't want them to make a mess in our house. So when we create so many boundaries within the house, which means I need to ask my mom every time I want to color, or every time I want to paint, or every time I want to ride a bike, or every time I want to do something, I need to ask them to get it from the closet, or to give me the paper, or to do so many things. It's all boundaries that you've set within your house that have limited the creativity of our kids. And that's why kids prefer screens. Because mom's not screaming at me because I've made a mess. I don't want to clean up things in places where mom says that that's not where they go. So I feel like as a society in general, it's the scapegoat. It's just easy, right? In every way. It's, I want to make dinner in a quiet setting, so here is the TV. If you go on Mothercould, mothercould.com, you'll find so many endless ideas of what kids could be doing during that time that you're making dinner in a quiet place. But it all takes a little bit more work than turning on the TV.
Yeah.
So I think it's all intentional. Do you want this change within your house? Do you want this change within your family? If you want it, then it's going back to questions within Playful by Design, and it's asking yourself, what limitations have I set within the house that don't allow my kids to play with the toys that they have?
Yeah.
And it's not having to buy new tools, not having to buy new things, not having to buy a professional course on Instagram to show kids how to. No, it's what limitations have I set and how can I rein that back?
Wow. That, Myriam, is so relatable. And
I do it too.
I'm sure I'm not the only one that's done that. We have like a pantry in our kitchen that is sort of like the arts and crafts pantry. It's like arts and crafts and other small toy knickknacks pantry, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's where my son would go if he needs crayons or markers or art supply. I mean, any and all of the stuff. But more often than not, and he could reach it because it's not high, it's like ground level, which is awesome. Yeah. And so, yes, he had access to that, but 9 times out of 10, it was me taking the stuff out, putting it on the kitchen table so that he could sit and draw. But he definitely had access to it and obviously still has access to it. But I think you're right about the boundaries. Wow.
Imagine
that
now
is
you
really
put like
profound.
an art caddy on the dinner table rather than having it stored in the closet because it looks better.
Right. It's a big difference. And every once in a while, like I said, I do sort of take things out to encourage that because it is very much out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
For all of us, right?
The TV is literally staring at us, waiting for us to turn it on.
Right. That's one thing. I'm pointing to another monitor I have there, like another TV there. Yeah. It's like, that's there right in your face. But the art supplies are tucked away in a closet.
Yes. We've made the TV so beautiful now, the frame TVs, that it's just like, you want me all the time, right here.
I'm calling your name.
I'm calling you. Come get me all the time.
Yeah.
So imagine if we set up these invitations to play.
Yes.
For our kids.
It's true. At the foot of my bed, the foot and over maybe a little bit of foot of my bed, my son has an entire like Lego City set up. And I have not cleaned it up for months. I mean, we like vacuum around it or whatever, but I leave it there because I know that when he remembers it and he sees it, that's a hot spot. And then he'll sit down and play. And if I'm folding laundry or I'm doing something else in my room, then that's our way for like him to play analog, for us to be together, for us to be in the same room. Yeah. And I know that if I put that away properly in his playroom or put them back in the bins, it's over. It's done. Yeah. And so I leave it there sort of as like its own live setup, because even just a few days ago, right before we went to Florida last week, I was packing and he saw that they were there and he sat down and he was playing and he was talking to himself and he was moving little figurines and all that kind of stuff. And I love that. And I want to encourage that. So I love the idea about the hot spots. And we definitely have a few set up in our house. Our living room is one. He's really big into these like dragons. I don't know if you've ever seen these like 3D printed dragons.
They're very cool.
Oh my God, they're huge. So he has several of those that we have in the living room. And then obviously, like I said, the Legos at the foot of my bed. And I'm always like, oh, I don't want to step on those at 3:00 in the morning. So I sort of like kicked them over. So luckily I'm not stepping on them, but
Yes.
but I did that preemptively because that's like the last thing I need when I'm getting up to pee. But I love the idea about the hot spots because it's important to, yes, use screens when necessary. Obviously, like I'm,
Yes.
we're a screen family. I'm not going to lie. Like,
Yes.
he's 12 years
So
old.
are
He's
we.
gaming. He's doing
Yes.
his things.
Yeah.
He's talking to his friends. But there's something so special and so pure when I see him sort of like crouched on the floor, hunched over, playing with his Legos and talking to himself and like
Yes.
acting out the scenarios and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's something that's so beautiful. And I want to encourage that as much as I can.
I agree. And I think as society, we're scared for our kids to be bored. Like, do you remember our childhood? We
Yeah.
thrived on boredom.
Yes.
We
did.
made everything from boredom. Like everything that we did was fueled from boredom. Now our kids' schedules are so overwhelmed so that they don't have a moment to be bored.
Yes. I have friends who overbook their children's schedules so much that they don't have a second. My son, and I love him so much for this, he will advocate for himself and say, like, I can only do one thing at a time.
I love that.
And it's great. He does American Ninja Warrior parkour training on Tuesdays, and on Wednesdays he does kendo, and that's it.
Yes.
And I respect that so much. And I love that. And I'm not the type of parent to say, okay, Monday through Friday, we have to do these. And on the weekends, we're doing sports and that. That's just not us. Like, that's totally fine for other people's families. And I respect that. Everyone does their own thing. But he knows that he needs downtime. He needs his own boredom time.
Love that.
And I love that. And I think that's wonderful for him to be in a place in our family to advocate for that. Because I know a lot of kids, because they confide in me. Because they say, like, my mom books me, and I love that Jack isn't booked like that. I wish we had more of a schedule that reflected what Jack's doing versus what, they're doing. And so it's important to have these conversations with your kids.
Boredom fuels creativity. And that's when you see your son crash down, playing with the Legos, talking to himself, that is all challenging the brain. So if you are scheduled and told what to do every moment of the day, every day, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm giving my kids all these amazing opportunities. You are giving your kids incredible opportunities. Mm-hmm. But then you can't complain that they don't play and they're not creative. Yes. It's one or the other, right? It's both. It's like, you can't say my kids don't play with toys, but do they have access and time to play with the toys?
Right.
So it's kind of like that balance of what works. And the same thing happened with my daughter the other day. She loves to dive. She's on the dive team at her school. And
that's awesome. That's so cool.
Never in my mind would I have ever thought that she would be diving. And I told her, I was like, you're going to get to middle school and your friends are going to be doing other sports. Maybe we should start picking other things. And she goes, Mom, I dive. And I was like, okay, you dive.
I love that. I love that. She dives. That's it. That's her thing.
That's her thing.
My son does parkour, and that's what he does. And he loves it, and he's good at it. And that's it. That's enough.
There you go.
I love that. Myriam, I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, and I'm super curious to hear what your answer is. What do you think is the biggest modern mom problem right now?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. Okay.
It is. I'm always so curious to hear people. Yeah.
Social media is my answer.
You know what? 9 times out of 10, that is the answer. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, that's the answer.
Wow. Okay. It must be because of the field that we're in, because we have access and we could see it. Like I'm in a very safe space. Mothercould does not receive hate. Mm-hmm. Period. It's gorgeous. It is amazing. One of my videos goes viral to like the masses, and I have the 12 and 13-year-old boys putting disgustingness comments.
Really?
The majority of the most disgusting comments that I see, and I click on their profile, it is a 13-year-old boy.
That's wild. I would have figured it was a 70-year-old man.
No, it is always teens or preteens.
That's horrible. First of all, preteens should not be on Instagram because you have to be 13 years old and older. So that's number one, friends. But wow, that is wild. I think that is true actually for any piece of viral content, is that it always ends up on the wrong side of social media.
It does.
That it ends up in front of the eyes of people that it was never intended for.
Correct.
Simple.
Correct. But sometimes it's on the wrong side, for the wrong person, blah, blah, blah. But the gross comments of like, I won't even say what they say.
Wow.
Happen from teens and preteens.
That's
mostly
wild.
Boys.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's terrible. Usually the answer to this is what people say is that it's social media comparison, not even social media at large, but social media comparison is that people feel less than because of the images that they're seeing of the home edit or the beautifully organized homes and all of the care and the curation that goes into that. So that's one thing that people on the show have been saying is that they feel less than.
True. It's true. And I agree with that. And I think that happens with our consumer mindset, right? We love to consume, and it's buying things from Amazon or consuming things on social media. And it's addicting, right? It's addicting to just keep scrolling, keep seeing, keep consuming. But to me, the scariest part is their mental health and how they get to say the things that they say because they've had already years on social media. So for me, the biggest problem that we have is that we have no idea what type of content they're going to be fed into. Yeah. And that to me is scary. Yeah. Very scary.
Absolutely. No, that is... It is wild. I'm trying to keep my son off of social media as long as possible. Yeah. I should give like an asterisk there, is that he does like go on YouTube and look at YouTube shorts, but mostly like from the television. And so I see what he's consuming there. It's not that he's like, it's a little bit different. I think going into like the TikToks and Snapchats and Instagrams of the world where you're looking at comments and all of that kind of stuff does tend to be a little bit different versus like watching YouTube on the television in the living room. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I had 2 Gen Z interns last summer and they told me the craziest part about Snapchat. So Snapchat has a map. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you can see where all your friends are on the map. So let's say Jamie is having a house party. Mm-hmm. Jamie didn't invite 3 people from the class. So now you go on the map and you see everybody at Jamie's house and then the 3 people at their house.
No. Really? That's wild.
How sad is that?
That breaks my heart thinking about that. I'm not on Snapchat. I have no experience with it. So like, I would like the last person to ask about it. But that's so sad.
It's so sad. One is very scary that you can see where people are.
Yeah. That's like probably number one.
Number one.
For sure.
Number 2, so sad. Like for your mental health at that age when it's so fragile, so fresh, so new. Now imagine giving it to a 13, 14-year-old.
Yes. And middle school was hard enough as it was when we went to middle school.
Yes.
Let alone now with all of like the group chats and the Snapchat and all of that kind of stuff and the nude photos and like all the things that happen. Yes. It's bananas.
It is bananas. So social media is my...
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. That is the biggest modern mom problem right now. Like I said, usually people say social media comparison in particular, but I think social media it's a big one. It's a big one. And we're going to keep talking about it week after week. We keep talking about it.
We should continue to talk about it. It's a big problem. And I don't know what the solution is. I think it's delay is the primary solution, but it's hard to do that when you're in a school full of different types of families that allow their kids different types of access to to technology, because kids get around parental controls all the time. You can scroll TikTok on Safari, so you don't need to download an app in order to see that. You can erase your browsing history. Like there's so many ways to get around parental controls that the answer is not that.
Yeah, that's not it. Right. I know I see what you're saying. I think for me, having a 12-year-old is just really keeping the open lines of communication. We talk about everything. He knows to come to me for questions, concerns, things he's seen, any and all of those things. And we have a really great relationship that we've laid the foundation for that
It's
when
cute.
he was
I
younger,
agree.
and we maintain that now. And so that would be my plea for parents, in addition to not having your definitely preteens and then, early teens on social platforms, is to really keep the lines of communication open and to know what they're consuming. Know who they follow, know what they're looking at, know what kind of YouTube videos they're watching, all of those things. And so it's the best we could do is just stay vigilant. I'm making up words. I'm just making stuff up. Stay diligent and vigilant. Those I put two together, vigilant and diligent together. Do all of those things and stay present with them. And I think that's the biggest thing, because in middle school, many times parents take their foot off the gas in terms of parenting, and that's not necessarily the case. You have to really lean in and know what's going on. So that's my 2 cents there.
It's like all of a sudden you want to give them independence. It's like, hey, where was all the independence during play?
Mm-hmm. Right? Isn't that true? Bringing it back full circle, Myriam. Bringing it back full circle. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us where we could follow you, where we could get Playful by Design, the book, all of the things. Tell us all the stuff.
Okay, you can follow me on every social platform. It's at Mothercould. Wholesome, nice family content.
Yes, it is. It is.
And then you can always find ideas, recipes, product recommendations, Playful by Design on mothercould.com. And Playful by Design is anywhere books are sold, even on Audible, which is amazing.
I love it. Did you read your book on Audible?
I did. Oh my God, was it hard?
So stressful.
Oh my, English is my second language, and I had never thought about it in that way until I had to enunciate every word. Oh my God. Oh my God. Was it hard? Newfound appreciation for audiobook readers.
Yeah, for real, for real. I did mine back in 2021, and it was tricky. It's hard. It's frustrating.
Yes,
it's frustrating and it's annoying, but it's an amazing experience to be able to have the privilege to be able to do that. So it is awesome. Awesome. My last question for you, and then I'm really going to let you go, is where do you get your ideas for the videos and for the recipes?
Usually from my kids. Everything that I've ever created is from my kids. My mom is a chef by trade. So I've been in the kitchen with her since I was tiny. So I kind of understand how different ingredients mesh with each other. So when I'm thinking about creating a new slime recipe, I could pull different food ingredients and put them together and kind of tweak it here and there to get the perfect substance. So yeah, usually from my kids, usually from things that I see at stores that are expensive that you might not be able to get around the world. I'll be like, okay, you know what? I can make kinetic sand. Let's try. Let's go. And, exactly. And it's the best.
I love it. I love that so much. I'm going to go home and make some. I am home, but I'm going to go up and make some kinetic sand with my son later on today. Yay. I love that. Myriam, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful conversation.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Modern Mom Probs. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive in today's problem with me, your host, Tara Clark. Join me next time when I'll be interviewing another great guest and tackling another modern mom problem. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating. As always, you could head over to Modern Mom Probs on Instagram and give me a follow, or check out my book, Modern Mom Probs, A Survival Guide for 21st Century Mothers, available online wherever books are sold. Well, that's it for today. See you next time, folks.